As many of you may know, there are several people out there on YouTube who review movies on their channel. Usually they review movies they don't like and talk about them in a hilarious, comedic fashion, but occasionally they do positive ones. The point is, they all do it better than me, but since yesterday I went to go see Wolverine and didn't care for it much, which is rare for me. I rarely see movies I don't like. I thought I'd give it a spin, talk about this movie, and try to present it in an organized fashion like the other people on YouTube who review movies do. So, Wolverine, saw it yesterday. Let's give this a shot. The movie opens in 1845 in British North America, which is later identified as Canada. This isn't actually Canada because British North America did not become Canada until 1867, but it's in the area we now know as Canada, which becomes relevant in a moment here. Anyway, we see a young James Howlett, who some of us may know becomes Wolverine later on. Some people with me in the theater did not, but regardless, he is sick, which I guess has no relevance in this movie. We also see a young Victor Creed, who later becomes Sabretooth, as soon becomes obvious. A few minutes into the movie, James's father, John Howlett, is gunned down by Victor's father, Thomas Logan. James arrives shortly after this incident and, in an act of rage, uses his protruding bone claws to kill Thomas Logan. This scene actually made me laugh in the theater because of how ridiculous it looks. James uses his bone claws, which protrude out of his fists, as we well know they do. He looks up into the ceiling of the house they are in and gives a roar that I guess is supposed to show his animalistic side, but because he's a 9-year-old child, it just ends up looking really ridiculous. And the way the next scene is cut, when he's charging at Thomas Logan with his claws, yelling, and then he ends up stabbing him, it looks very much ridiculous. In fact, it kind of reminds me of something that would happen in a Chucky movie. It just really looks ridiculous. I think they could have handled this a lot better. I'm not exactly sure what could have been done, but I think it could have been more subtle. I know they're trying to show that Wolverine is an animal, and they were trying to show that side of him. I understand that they were trying to do that, but it just ends up looking really ridiculous with this 9-year-old doing it. With his dying breath, Logan tells James that he is actually his son, making James and Victor brothers. And I suppose John Howlett was just... I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what his role was in here then. But the point is, James and Victor are now full brothers, meaning that the rest of the movie can continue on. James and Victor run off and decide to protect each other no matter what. In the following years, we see them grow up and fight in wars. They fight in the American Civil War, World War II, World War I, and the Vietnam War. Why? We see throughout the movie that they're fighting on the American side, which is fairly obvious as Canada didn't take part in these battles, but they're Canadian, so why are they fighting for the Americans? And why are they even participating in the war at all? Do they have some sort of bloodlust? I guess that kind of makes sense because they're both partially animalistic in their mutant powers, but I'm not entirely sure why they chose to participate in these wars. It would actually make sense to me if Victor was the one who was participating in wars just so he could kill people, because that's the kind of person he is, but James is not really supposed to be like that. So anyway, through this montage, we see them get hit by cannonballs, get shot, get stabbed, but they continue to survive because they have their regenerative powers. I think that was the point of this montage. I still want to know why they were choosing to fight in these wars. Whatever. Anyway, in the Vietnam War, we see James is forced to act as a check on Victor's ever-increasing rage. As a matter of fact, in Vietnam, we see Victor kill a superior officer after being stopped from raping a Vietnamese girl, which causes James and Victor to be sentenced to execution via firing squad, which of course doesn't work. They fill them full of bullets. It's not shown, but it's implied that of course it doesn't kill them. We know that. So James and Victor are locked up in a cell. Now, this is somewhat minor, but I did think this in the theater, and I think some others may have as well. How were James and Victor transported from the battlefield where they were arrested to the execution area to the cell? I understand why they don't care if the firing squad tries to execute them, because they know that they cannot die from normal bullet wounds, but why did they allow themselves to be transported to a cell? Because I'm fairly sure they can't escape from the cell. When you think about it, because Wolverine doesn't have his adamantium claws yet, they're made of bone. So my thinking is that Victor and James would be unable to escape from the cell if they wanted to, so I'm not sure why they allowed themselves to be taken in there, because they're obviously strong enough to escape any attempts to subdue them, because they can heal from anything, and they are very strong, and they do have, built-in weapons. I suppose it's possible that they just don't give a damn, which actually kind of fits in with their characters. They just don't care about very much because they know they can survive anything, and they've been running for the past 100+ years, so I guess I can kind of see them just not giving a crap, but I would like to know how they got transported from the execution area to the cell. Just a thought. Sometime later, William Stryker approaches the two and offers them membership in Team X, which is an elite group of mutants, which is very fortunate for the two of them, because if he didn't come along, there's a good chance Victor and James would have just spent the rest of their life inside that cell, because again, I don't think they could have escaped. Regardless, he comes, lets them into their group, and we're introduced to this team. It consists of a super strong, invulnerable mutant named Frederick Dukes, John Wraith, which is played by rapper will.i.am, who can teleport, and Bolt, who can manipulate electricity with his mind, and finally an expert marksman in Agent Zero. Now, there's also a mercenary named Wade Wilson, played by Ryan Reynolds. I'm not sure if he's supposed to be a mutant or just... I guess he's a mutant, but his power is fairly generic, so I don't know. I don't even know if he's part of this group because, again, he is a mercenary. We see this team invade a compound in Lagos, Nigeria, who deal in diamonds. The main smuggler, the leader if you will, is actually played by Colonel Dubaku from 24, which I thought was kind of cool. Anyway, during the invasion, we see the use of all their powers. Frederick Dukes uses his invulnerability to bounce back a tank missile at a tank and blow it back up by sticking his fist into the cannon. We see Agent Zero use his amazing sharpshooting abilities to take out about 20, 30 bad guys in a matter of seconds, which looks cool. It's cool to look at, although the bad guys, the diamond smugglers, suffer from the stormtrooper effect of not being able to hit anything. Given that Agent Zero is only an expert marksman, not extremely fast or agile, it doesn't make too much sense to me why they couldn't hit him just once, given that they unload thousands of bullets at him. We see Wolverine climb up the side of a building, and we see Bolt use his manipulation of electricity to activate an elevator after it is shut down, and then we see Wade Wilson charge into a room with 8 machine gun toting villains, use his dual katanas to deflect every bullet shot at him, and then he cuts them all up and they're in. Now this scene with Wade Wilson deflecting these thousands of bullets with his katanas, it challenged my suspense of belief. The first scene where Agent Zero was using his sharpshooting abilities to kill everyone, I was slightly incredulous thanks to the inability of the bad guys to hit him, but I didn't mind the fact that he was such a good shooter that he was able to take everyone out in a matter of seconds just by sweeping his arms around. I can sort of buy that he's a mutant of some sort capable of doing things such as this. This scene's just ridiculous, however. It looks cool, but I just refuse to believe that anybody could actually deflect bullets like this with a couple of katanas. But, it's a superhero movie. I'm going to put that to the side for now. So, they invade Dubaku's room. I'm just going to call him Dubaku because I think it's kind of funny. And they don't want his diamonds. They want a meteorite on his desk that he was using as a paperweight. We don't know why yet, but they ask him where they got it from, get that information, and go to some village.